So, what's the story with India right now, in October 2025? It's a nation that's absolutely in the middle of a massive transformation. We're talking game changing tech deals, huge social shifts, and some new global pressures. Let's dive right in.
I want to start with a number that just kind of makes you stop and think. $15 billion. What do you even do with that kind of money? The answer tells us pretty much everything we need to know about where India is headed.
So, where is all that money going? Well, it's funding a massive leap into the world of artificial intelligence. And this isn't just about throwing cash at a problem, it's a really bold statement. It's about becoming a global AI powerhouse. And when you look at the details, the scale of this project is just wow. Adani Connects and Google are teaming up to build the country's largest ever data center. But it's way more than just storage. This is going to be India's first gigawatt-scale AI hub. That means it'll have the power of a small city, all of it dedicated to running advanced AI. And get this, for Google, this will be their biggest AI hub anywhere outside of the United States. That's a huge bet on India's tech future. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're starting with this AI superhub, and then we're going to zoom out and see how the entire nation is going digital. From there, we'll look at a massive shift in the workforce, see how India is dealing with global challenges, and then we'll wrap it all up with a little reality check on its global standing. But that massive AI project, as huge as it is, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. India's digital transformation is happening everywhere, in pretty much every town and city. And that's the real story here. This isn't just about giant corporate projects. Technology is fundamentally changing the daily lives of millions and millions of people all across the country. I mean, just look at digital payments. A recent study from the Reserve Bank of India, using data from PhonePe, really shows how deeply ingrained this has become. They found that the state of Telangana is actually leading the entire country in how often people use UPI, that's the Unified Payments Interface. And this isn't just a big city thing. It shows this huge cultural shift toward a cashless economy, especially popping up in the South and the West. And hey, it's not just regular folks jumping on the digital bandwagon. The Indian government itself is using tech to try and modernize its own huge, complex machinery. A perfect example of this is something called LIMS, which stands for Legal Information Management and Briefing System. It launched on October 14th, and basically it's a live case dashboard. It lets them track in real time the thousands of legal cases the government is involved in. It's a digital tool designed to bring in some much-needed transparency and, cut through all that bureaucratic red tape. Okay, so we've talked tech. But now let's pivot to the human element, because what's happening here is honestly one of the biggest social shifts India has seen in a very, very long time. Just look at this chart. It tells such a powerful story. Back around 2017, the female labor force participation rate was sitting at 23%. Now, fast forward to 2024, and that number has almost doubled, jumping to 42%. That's a massive leap, and it means millions more women have joined the formal economy. And this isn't just us saying it's a big deal. The Ministry of Labor and Employment itself called this a historic shift towards socioeconomic transformation and gender inclusion. This is the kind of change that will reshape families, communities, and the entire Indian economy for years, maybe even decades to come. Of course, all this incredible growth doesn't happen in a perfect little bubble. India, like every other country, has to deal with a complicated and often pretty turbulent global environment. And recently, its economic resilience was really put to the test. So here's the play-by-play. In August, the U.S. suddenly put new import duties on all international parcels. India's response? They hit pause. They halted all postal services to the U.S. for 2 entire months. Things only got back to normal on October 15th, after a whole new system for handling these duties was put in place. It was a classic example of a sudden external shock to the system. So, you have this sudden disruption on top of all the other global pressures. How did India's economy handle it? Well, the answer might surprise you, remarkably well. And this really gets to the story of India's domestic resilience. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. They actually upgraded India's GDP growth forecast, bumping it up from 6.4% to 6.6%. And why the upgrade? It really comes down to strong, stable demand right there at home, which kept the economic engine running despite those global challenges.
Okay, so we've got this picture of amazing digital momentum, huge social transformation, and a surprisingly tough economy. But to get the full picture, we need to look at one more metric of global standing. And this one, well, it tells a slightly different story.
This is the 2025 Henley Passport Index. It basically ranks passports based on how many countries you can visit without needing a visa beforehand. You can see Singapore, South Korea, and Japan are right there at the top. This index is a really good snapshot of a country's global mobility and, its diplomatic pull. So, the big question is, where does India fit in? Well, here's the reality check. In 2024, it was ranked 80th, but this year, it slipped 5 places to 85th. Yeah, it's a pretty sobering contrast to all the positive domestic news we've been talking about, and it shows there are still some major hurdles when it comes to global mobility. Now, this drop isn't just about India specifically. A passport's power reflects all these complex global trends, everything from diplomacy to security concerns. It's a great reminder that a nation's progress is shaped by its internal strengths, and just as importantly, by how the rest of the world sees it. Which leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? India is this nation of incredible contrasts right now. It is surging ahead with innovation and social change at home, but at the same time, it's facing a more complex and challenging world outside. So the real question is, which of these forces will be more decisive in defining its next chapter?